So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Tiger Talk this week. My name is Lindsay Bray. I'm the Senior Coordinator for Parent and Family Services here at the University of Memphis. Today we have Chelsea Liddell, the Program Manager for our Student Inclusion, here with the Multicultural Affairs Office to talk with you a little bit about our LGBTQAI plus resources that we have on campus. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
So to get us started, can you tell our parents a little bit about yourself and your role at the University of Memphis?
Sure. As she stated, my name is Chelsea Liddell, and I have a background in psychology, so that's what my area of study has been. I've worked in academia before. I taught for a number of years, and now I'm over here in Multicultural Affairs at the University of Memphis, Program Manager for Student Inclusion. And they brought me in, I focus a lot on programming for students, obviously, but the major population they wanted me to focus on with my role was the LGBTQ students. And so since I've been here, I came in right before COVID. And so it's been an odd time, like learning the ropes from home, but definitely been able to put together a lot of resources for students. I've been able to do a lot of trainings, programming and things like that, even virtually speaking. So we offer quite a bit through our office. So I'm very happy to be here and be a part of that.
Well, we're excited to have you on campus again, once we're face to face again, fully this fall. So can you tell us a little bit about that programming that you are doing and that maybe you have plans for in the future for this year?
Sure. So this last year, a lot of our stuff kind of got pushed aside or canceled entirely because there was no way to do some of it virtually. But a lot of the programming that I work through in our office is going to be through our student groups. And so we have a group called Stonewall Gender and Sexuality Alliance within our office, and they do a great deal of the programming for students as far as this population goes. So we do in October is LGBTQ History Month. And so we have a lot of programming during October. This is going to be my first year to do programming through our office for that History Month. So I'm hoping to generate some interest around that. And I'm hoping to have some panel discussions, maybe some speakers. And like I said, Stonewall will have a whole week at the end of October where they do a lot of student activities. Some are outdoors, some are indoors. They try to have a speaker. And then it culminates at the end of the week, right before Halloween, they have a university drag show. And so it's a really fun event. They've had it, I think, 3 years now. And so we get to bring it back this year. And aside from, the fall, moving into spring, what they do is they have a Stonewall Ball. And it's sort of like an opportunity for folks to come and be in a safe space and bring whatever partner or date they want to like a prom type event. And have a meal and get to dance and all that sort of stuff. So that's usually one of the more exciting, like big exciting events that Stonewall does. And then as far as our office goes, we do have a program called Diversity Ambassadors, where we do some education about LGBTQ issues, Safe Zone training, which we do. It focuses entirely on LGBTQ issues. And then we have a number of panel discussions throughout the year that focus on different events, and sometimes LGBTQ topics come up there as well.
That's a great set of resources and events. So you mentioned Stonewall Tigers. Can you talk a little bit about that organization and how a student might, if they're interested, get involved with them?
Absolutely. So I'm the advisor for that group. And if there's interest, you can always reach out to me over here in Multicultural Affairs. Their president this year is a young lady named Emily Campbell. This is her second year as the president. We did have a bit of a drop in membership last year just because of COVID. And, you ask students to do one more thing on Zoom, and sometimes the student groups are what kind of get cut out of their agenda. So we're really looking to drive membership back up this year. And they're also on Tiger Zone. So that really great page for the students to go and find all the events. We try to get everything posted on there. And you can also find, I think we're called U of M Stonewall Tigers on Instagram. So we're also on there, and we try to post all the events and things. And it's a free group to join. You don't have to meet any criteria. You don't even have to be, LGBTQ. If you're an ally, you can come and join as well. they do educational programming and social gatherings both. And so a lot of good things. It's a great place to go and be in a safe space with folks, but also a great way to learn some new stuff.
That's really great. So you also kind of mentioned safe zone training. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, and also how a student, if they're interested in going through that, can do that as well?
Sure. So safe zone training, it's a training that was created to be the source of like support and information. You come into a space that is free of judgment, free of hostility. So if you have questions that you might feel, some people feel embarrassed asking questions, they feel like they're too sensitive or whatever. And so it's a really great space to answer those questions, because nobody is going to judge, and everyone is there just to make sure that good information is passed along, and we are enabling people to better interact with and serve the LGBTQ community. And it's a collaborative project that we do with our office. We have two trainings, Safe Zone 1 and Safe Zone 2. The Counseling Center actually does the Safe Zone 1 training, and that focuses on a lot of discussions about sexual orientation and LGBTQ issues. And then Safe Zone 2 is done through our office, and it focuses more on trans and non-binary issues. We talk a lot about pronouns. We talk a lot about, like I said, just education about how to support that community. And our graduate assistant here in our department, she and I work together to develop that program and present it to students. Students and faculty both can participate in that program. So if you want to get involved with it, there is a link on both the counseling website, the Counseling Center website, and our LGBTQ resources website through Multicultural Affairs, and you can sign up there.
Great, and we'll include that link below too. That's wonderful. So you mentioned pronouns as well. So some of our parents may be a little unsure of what those are, but have heard those. Can you tell them a little bit about what those are and kind of how students or people use them?
Yeah, so pronouns, I mean, we use them every day in speech, right? And I'm sure you can see here on my Zoom name, I have my pronouns listed there, she, her. And so he, him, she, her, they, them are probably the most common pronouns that you're going to hear people use. But it's always a good idea to ask people what their preferred pronouns are, just because some folks have, pronouns they identify with outside of just those three sets. And so, it's really important to acknowledge people's pronouns, just because sometimes we make a lot of assumptions about folks when we interact with them on a daily basis based on the way they dress, based on the way they look. And it can really be hurtful to be, misgendered by, the use of the wrong pronouns. And so that's something that we really try to encourage here within our office and within the trainings that we do and things. When we do an introduction with our students or with our faculty, we always try to, hey, let's go around the room and say our name, what department we're from, or what our major is, and what are our pronouns. And so try to be really respectful of those here on campus. And we're trying to get that word out with as many faculty members as possible, so we can get that into the classroom process as well, hopefully, so that even if it's not in a public space where students announce their pronouns, if they don't feel comfortable doing that, perhaps the faculty member can at least know via paperwork or something. So, yeah.
I think that's a great point, that we want to be as inclusive as possible, and that's just a simple way to do that as well. And I know during orientation, we've incorporated that in. So hopefully that is a little more incorporated into our classroom settings as well. So what can you tell our parents a little bit about kind of what the university resources are that students can utilize on campus from your office?
Okay. So like I said before, we have this really great website that Raven Cohen, who's our graduate assistant over here, she's put together. I would say any resource that you could want to access is available through there. It's got a list of, on-campus resources, such as we do offer things like transgender, voice training, which is something that people wouldn't even consider sometimes. Sometimes when people are transitioning, they need help with adjusting their voice. And so we do have I think it's a hearing and speech center, Memphis Hearing and Speech Center, and they assist with voice training. So that's one, resource that we offer here on campus for the trans and non-binary population. And then, of course, our counseling center, we have a really great group of folks over there that are very supportive of LGBTQ folks. We used to have like a group meeting once a week on Fridays for LGBTQ students. Once we get back in person, they may be able to start that group back up again, which could be really exciting. I'm glad to see a support group like that for students who might want a safe space to talk. And then, goodness, we just got, I'm trying to remember, we've also got a couple of forms that students can access through our website. They actually, I think they end up being processed like through the registrar's office and things like that. But if a student has a preferred name, or even if they change their legal name, they can go and fill out a form to get that information into the university system. And then we also have a legal sex update form. So if somebody is transitioning and they wish to have their legal sex change within the university system, they can do that as well. And like I said, all of that is accessible through our website.
And so are there other community resources that students can also take advantage of?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm working really hard to build relationships with those community resources so that we can have a presence on campus more frequently. So the number one group that I am familiar with here in Memphis and work with is Out Memphis. And they are just a fantastic group of folks. It's all about building connections, educating, and then advocating for the LGBTQ population. They work with all age groups. I mean, they have meetings for anywhere from young teens all the way up to senior citizens within their social groups. And so they have a really great, like I said, support network for the population. And they also have a project called the Metamorphosis Project. And they support, it's like a youth emergency center for ages 18 to 24. So folks who are, experiencing homelessness or need resources such as food, clothing, hygiene services, anything like that. And they also can help those people quickly, find a new place to live via rental assistance or something like that. So that's a really great program throughout Memphis. And then there are a couple of other groups. Choices is a nonprofit reproductive health clinic. They're very LGBTQ friendly. And I know that they have some clinicians there that people all over the city, they're lining up to go see these clinicians because they're so welcoming and affirming. And then the Tennessee Equality Project, we have a branch right here in Shelby County, and they're sort of they work through legislative advocacy. So they stay sort of informed about what's on the books, as far as legislation goes, and try to educate people about that and get people involved if we need to fight it or support it, that kind of thing. And then the last one that I wanted to mention is there's a place in Cooper Young called The Corner, and it offers fast and free HIV and STI preventative testing and services for everybody. Doesn't matter if you have insurance, doesn't matter if you're a US citizen, doesn't matter, any of that stuff. You can walk in, say, hey, I need these services, and they're going to provide them for you.
Those are wonderful resources that our community offers. And I will say for our parents, Cooper Young is about a 7 to 10 minute drive from campus, not too far.
Not far at all.
It is my home neighborhood, and I love it. So I like being close to campus, and so a lot of those resources do exist in there. Well, those are great. So are there any other kind of national resources that you might recommend for students or their families?
Absolutely. So as far as families go, there's a really great group called PFLAG. It's essentially like parents and friends of lesbians and gays. That's what PFLAG stands for. But it's seriously, it's just a great way for parents, family, allies to come together and, discuss some of those issues that arise as you are raising an LGBTQ child, or, you're living in a community that, may not be educated about LGBTQ folks. How do I help my neighborhood or my community be more supportive? So that's a really great group to get involved with. The Trevor Project is a really great resource for teens and young adults. They have a crisis hotline. Their whole focus is on suicide prevention and crisis intervention. So, and then the Human Rights Campaign. They do a lot of political work, but they also do a lot of education about sexual health, and they have a conference every year. So it's just, they have all these different branches that they're involved with throughout the country. And then the last one I wanted to mention was the It Gets Better project. It was founded by Dan Savage several years ago, and his partner, Terry Miller. And so that's been an ongoing project. And what I found with the It Gets Better project is it's really encouraging, uplifting, inspirational for folks who are struggling with coming out or seeing a good future for themselves as an LGBTQ person. It allows them to see that, read all these stories, hear all these people tell about their real life, successes as a gay person or a trans person, whatever the case may be. And I just found it to give people a lot of hope. So that's definitely a project to check out as well as far as natural resources go.
Oh yeah, those are great ones too for our students and our families to kind of get some support along the way. So for students who might be looking for a religious organization to join, but are a little concerned, do you have any resources to kind of help students connect with churches or religious organizations that are kind of welcoming and affirming for them here in the area? Absolutely.
That's another resource that we have available on our webpage. There's actually a whole list of churches in the Memphis area, and they are actually, we've got them a distinction made on the page between, do they accept LGBTQ folks within their congregations, or are they an open and affirming church, meaning not only are you welcome in the congregation, but you're welcome within leadership within the ministry. They allow LGBTQ folks to be clergy members, that kind of thing. Do they recognize you and your partner? Would they recognize your marriage within their church? That kind of thing. So we actually have that distinction made on our webpage as well. But there's a very long list of anywhere. I mean, there's pretty much any denomination that you could, want to be a part of, as well as several non-denominational churches listed on that webpage. So you would find that there are several churches here in Memphis who are open and affirming and would be welcoming to, young adults who wanted to come be a part of that congregation as an LGBTQ person.
That's great that they can find their home here, fully find a home here in Memphis.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned a little bit about some resources for transgender students, but what are kind of some of the ways that the university helps to support transgender and non-binary students?
So I'll preface this by saying we do have a lot of things that we are pushing for and working toward right now. We fully acknowledge that there is work to be done, and that's part of the reason I'm here, which I feel so grateful to be a part of, this sort of movement, this forward movement. But some of the great stuff that we do have available right now, I mentioned earlier the voice training, through the Speech and Hearing Center, and then gender inclusive restrooms. This is a really big deal. And when I got here, that was one of the first things that was put in front of me was gender inclusive restrooms on campus. How many do we have? How many could we possibly convert so that we have one in every building? And why does the University Center not have one? That was kind of the big question when I first got here. But I'm happy to say that we should, by the time fall gets here, have a gender inclusive restroom in the UC. The new building that's being built, the recreational center, has gender inclusive restrooms in it. So we didn't even have to have that conversation. They just built it that way. So that's awesome. I know the psychology department is pushing right now, trying to get one of their restrooms converted over. So anyway, it's just something, that's one of those things a lot of folks don't think about, is if, you just go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are a person who doesn't necessarily identify as male or female, or a person who is nervous about going into restrooms because of the political climate that we've experienced in some places, you don't want to be harassed. So that's why it's really important we create these safe gender inclusive restrooms for folks all over our campus. So that's one thing that we're really focusing on. And then we also have the option for, as I mentioned before, the preferred full name. You can have that changed if you need to. And also you can have whatever name you go by or wish to be, present on your diploma. You have that choice. Even if you haven't had your name legally changed yet, you can have your preferred name put on your diploma. So that's one service that the university has opened up to. And then something that we're really pushing for right now is preferred name on ID cards. If we have to have the legal name on them, having it in small print on the back and then having that preferred name on the front. And then housing is the big one right now. So I know that there have been individual exceptions made for students who, need those exceptions because of their gender identity. But we don't have specific housing set aside at the moment for, our trans and non-binary students who specifically request special housing. And so that's something that I've been in conversation with some folks in housing about. We're working on that. And there's just a lot of stuff in the works right now. But what I love is that there is an environment here at the U of M that is very welcoming. It's what I've experienced anyway. It seems very welcoming and very supportive. And I've met so many people who say, oh, I didn't even know that was a problem. What can we do to fix it? And, once that conversation starts, it's been pretty easy to get it moved up the chain to where we're having real conversations about change. And so anyway, I think that it's a very supportive environment, even if we still have some work to do. So
yeah, I would agree. I think having worked here for 12 years now, I feel like when we are presented with an issue, we do our best to fix it in the best way that we can. And so when it comes to light, sometimes we don't always think of it. So making sure that we are thinking ahead and being proactive about those are so good, and so excited to have you here and get a lot of that in the works for us.
Yeah.
So for our students on campus, can you talk a little bit about the Pride and Equality Alliance that exists and how students can connect with faculty and staff members who are allies and can be a mentor for them?
Absolutely. So it's the Pride and Equity Alliance, is what it's called. And you can link to their site from our website as well. It's a group of faculty and staff members. You don't have to be a member of the LGBTQ community, to be a part of that group. You can also be an ally, just be a supporter. And the point of this group is to just raise awareness, hey, we're here, we're in the classrooms, we're, in these offices all over campus. And then sort of this, what processes need to be reviewed? How can we educate people? How can we provide safe spaces for students to support them? Like, that's what this group's all about. So before COVID started, we were, in fact, we were doing tabling events, where we would have resource fairs or whatever, and we would be there. And we were taking names from students who wished to sign up for a mentor program. And then COVID happened and we went home, and it's really hard to, start a mentor program whenever you can't meet face to face. But we did start sending emails out, about events and things that we're doing. And so we're hoping in the fall to get that mentorship, that program started back up. So yeah, absolutely. If there's any interest in, having a mentor from that group or, seeking any sort of resources from that group, you can contact them, like I said, through the webpage. I think there's an email address there for the leader of the group, or you can always reach out to me because I'm a member of the Pride and Equity Alliance. And so I'd be happy to help and point you in whatever direction you need to go.
Yeah, and we'll definitely link that one below too and highlight that one for our students. So we've kind of said the word ally a few times, just so that we make sure everyone understands. Can you talk a little bit about what an ally is and kind of how they really kind of help to support our LGBTQ students?
Absolutely. So an ally is someone who doesn't necessarily identify as LGBTQ plus, but they are very supportive. And they not only support LGBTQ people, but they support the causes that surround that population. They support equality for that population of people. And they do so not only privately, but publicly. It's easy to say I'm an ally when you're surrounded by gay folks. But whenever you're out in public and it might not be the most popular opinion, that's when it counts, is that you stand up and, and say I'm an ally to this community. So, it's really important when you're a member of a minority group, to have those folks in the majority standing beside you. I mean, it really bolsters your support. It really bolsters your cause. And so that's why it's so important that we need these allies, outside of our community to help and, support us. And I mean, I've seen so many parents, support their LGBTQ kids. You go to Pride, you go to Pride parades every year, you're going to see at least, 5-6 floats with parents and their kids. And so it's really, really awesome to see that support there, because I mean, it's a very, outward statement of, I love and support my child. And same way, I mean, just like at the University of Memphis, having folks who aren't necessarily part of our community say, we support these groups on campus, we support Stonewall, we support the Pride and Equity Alliance. We want these groups to get off the ground. We want to see them succeed. And so allyship is also about, making sure that we're creating those inclusive spaces, because a lot of folks, when you identify as LGBTQ, sometimes you're looking around and you go, I don't know if I'm safe here. I don't know if I can be out here. I don't know if I can talk about my partner here, those sorts of things. And so to be an open outward ally toward this community, it gives a lot of folks sort of that breath of relief, okay, I can relax here. And that's when we do our safe zone training. It's really great. We have stickers that we give out. And a lot of times you'll see the faculty members or the staff, they'll put those safe zone stickers outside their door, so that whenever a student is walking into that space, they understand, I'm walking into a safe space right now, and I can be who I am, and I can be open. I have an ally here with this person. So yeah, really important part of the community, the allies, for sure.
Yeah, support is so important for any student, but I think especially for our LGBTQ students as well, to have that extra layer for them, not only from their parents, which is so important, but also from faculty and staff to know that safe space. And speaking of stickers, we do have proud parent stickers as well, that for parents too. So if you want to show your pride, you can always email us as well, and we'll mail you one. And we have them at some of our events too. So we love getting to show those off for our parents too, and have something special for them. So if a student wanted to kind of learn a little bit more, maybe an ally wanted to learn a little bit more about the LGBTQ community, are there college courses that they could take, or ways they could fit that into their class schedule and maybe into their journey while they're here too?
Absolutely. Obviously, courses are going to rotate each semester. It's going to depend on what faculty members are, what they have to teach that semester, and what they can. Sometimes these are going to be like special topics courses, or things like that. And so what I have found in our course listings, I know that we do have an English course. There's like a literary heritage course focused on LGBTQ literature. Now again, when that's going to be offered, it's going to depend on availability from semester to semester. And then we also have, through the history department, there's a queer American history special topics course that's available. So and I know that also in the psychology and counseling department, I know that they will offer some special topics courses sometimes too on these issues. I know the counseling department, this was a grad school, but just recently I got a flyer for a course that they're offering about trans issues in counseling. And so that's, there's a number of things out there that rotate through during the semesters. And then we also, I mentioned safe zone training earlier. That's a great way to get educated and show support. And then that diversity ambassadors program, like that's a really great program. And it's usually held later in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So by the time most students get out of class, and it's offered both semesters. And not only are you looking at LGBTQ issues, but you're looking at some other like social justice issues and, just issues that are facing different populations in general. So I highly encourage folks to join that diversity ambassadors program. That's through our office, the Multicultural Affairs office. So
yeah, those are great programs, and to kind of add to your portfolio and kind of understanding and helping along the way. So if a parent is kind of a little bit worried about their student, what would you recommend that kind of any steps that they can take along the way to kind of help support them? But also if they get really worried about them, is there a way to an office to contact or something like that that can maybe help reach out to a student?
I mean, it's going to definitely depend on who that student's involved with as far as offices go, you know. If this is a student that's in one of my student groups, you know, or one of the student groups within our office, then we could easily reach out to that student and say, you know, hey, how's it going? You know, do you need some extra assistance right now? Is there anything we can do to support you? I mean, we've got the counseling center. I know I've said the counseling center, I don't know how many times, but I can't stress enough how important that center is, you know, for our students and their mental health. Being a student is stressful, you know, and I think a lot of times we kind of underestimate the amount of stress that students are carrying from day to day. So I would definitely say the counseling center is a good place to start. Or, you know, if you don't feel comfortable calling over there, if it has to do specifically with LGBTQ issues, you know, I'm happy to take a call or an email from somebody who's concerned about a student. We can definitely figure out, you know, what is the best office or the best set of resources to get to that student for sure.
That's good. That's good to know that if a parent's kind of worried, they have a place where they can express that. So as we kind of wrap up our Tiger Talk today, what do you have any last piece of advice for our parents as they kind of help to support their students and encourage them to take advantage of the resources that your office and the university offers?
I mean, I think as a parent, you know, if you truly want to show support for your child, you know, your student here, if you know the resources and you have them easily accessible to you, you know, it's going to be that much easier to educate your student on them. I mean, they're probably going to be exposed to this stuff too during workshops and things, resource fairs. But if they've got a parent who is trying to talk with them about those resources and point them directly to them, then that's going to make it easier on them with everything else they've got going on in their busy student life. And then just like letting your student be themselves. You know, they're gonna go to college and they're gonna have all this freedom that they haven't had before, and they're gonna want to, you know, get out and explore and do new things and meet new people, and they're gonna have all sorts of new friends. And I think it's just really important that, I mean, obviously we've got to keep our students safe and healthy, but to just let them, you know, be a young adult. And if we're talking about an LGBTQ student, you know, it's just really important that they know that even if they have bad run-ins at school or bad run-ins, you know, out in public or whatever the case may be, if they don't feel affirmed in other spaces, that they have that affirmation at home. They have that affirmation from their parents and their families. So that's a really simple, but one of the best ways to support an LGBTQ student is to just let them know that they're safe when they're with you.
I think those are fabulous points that, you know, it's all about that support, all about that affirmation. Creating those safe spaces are so important for our students. And so we really appreciate you being here. And
Absolutely.
giving this advice to our parents and kind of letting them in on the resources that are available. So thank you so much, parents, for joining us. And if you have any questions, of course, please ask them below and we're happy to answer those for you or get you connected where you need to go. Thanks again for joining us.